Hey, fellow pastors, question for you is this. How would you preach if no one had a print Bible and you couldn't present the text on a screen? For like 98.2% of biblical and church history, that hasn't been a hypothetical thought experiment. It has been the reality, because it wasn't until the 19th century invention of the steam-powered printing press that Bible production costs dropped enough for most families to afford a copy of the scriptures. And even then, it was primarily for family use, not personal carrying around use. Now, eventually, in the mid-1900s, bringing a personal Bible to worship on Sundays became relatively normative, for most people now had access to individual personal Bibles. And today it's a beautiful thing that we can say, look at the second half of verse 4. Having a print Bible is a great blessing. It just hasn't been normative for most of biblical or church history up until the last 100 years. So the question is for us, as print Bibles are again kind of receding in place of digital, the question is, how would we engage people in a sermon if we couldn't point to something that they were holding or that they could see? Perhaps our sermons would be a little less lecture-oriented, not less text-based, but more shaped by the story of redemption, a methodology that analyzed and shaped the sermon as a micro-narrative within the macro. In doing that, we would identify the truth in the text. We would then reveal how the flesh resists that truth. We would then pivot to the cross of Jesus as our only hope. And finally, we describe the new life that's possible in union with Christ. This is why preaching with the Bible's own organic gospel-shaped framework, which we call PPGR, why that is so engaging, because it follows the natural way God has wired us to process the redemptive story, whereby we receive His revelation, we feel the internal tension, we celebrate the gospel resolution, and then we expect supernatural transformation. That is the movement of the story. And your listeners don't need a written outline or a screen to follow that drama. They may or may not take notes, but who cares when their hearts and minds are being swept up into the redemptive flow of the message? And my guess is they will take notes, because there will be things the Spirit reveals to them in that message that will speak directly to them. Now, they might not want to get your main point outline with sub and sub points, but they will get what the Spirit is speaking to them through the text as their notes they may write down. And the bigger point for us is that maybe you can tell how uniquely intuitive this is for both the preacher and the listener, and how engaging it is. Why? Because we're not just presenting informative points. We are unfolding a redemptive plot. So this Sunday, take the pressure off. Try thinking a little less about a complex outline structure and more about the four basic redemptive movements in the text. If you'd like a guide to help you through the process, Preach 360 is built entirely around this movement-based, gospel-shaped framework. If you have questions, need help, feel free to reach out. I would love to help any way that I can. My name is McKay again, and this is Cross-Tethered Preaching. Look forward to being with you next time.